evening. Viewing angle looks a little different this time because the first time I shot this entire video it was with the 50mm lens that kept on drifting focus the entire time. I have no idea why it was doing that, so that's why it's a little bit different. I was at work the other day and one of my coworkers told me about a study that Harvard had done that seemed to expose Apple for purposefully slowing down their phones right before the release of a new model. What, kitty? Come here! So, we're gonna find out if that's true or not. At first I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get him. This is some juicy shit right here, man. Yeah! But when I was talking to Jason on the phone earlier, he's like, bro, you might want to check that out before you go and make a video about it. And I was like, yeah, you're right. As much as I wanted to believe it, it's not 100% true. A quick search on Snopes.com said that no study from Harvard or anyone else proved that Apple deliberately makes its older iPhones slower when releasing new gadgets. The article goes on to say that a long circulating piece of technology lore surrounding the release of new iPhones is what it should be, holds that Apple unleashes furtive updates to dramatically slow existing models in the lead up to the release of a new version. Which really matches up with my experience. After 5 years in the mobile industry, too often to ignore, when I asked people with iPhones when their devices started slowing down, they said, around September. And I said, what else happens in September? And they're like, oh yeah. Every September, or around that time of year, Apple announces or releases a new generation of their phone. It happened too often and in too many different cases for me to pass off as a coincidence. Where this came from can actually be traced back to a July 26th of 2014 New York Times upshot, I don't really know what that means, blog post authored by Mulanathan, in which he describes the study as a graduate student's casual experiment using Google Trends. I would think that any study based off of what Google Trends tells you would be reasonably accurate, even regardless of what you're looking for, even though what he was looking for I'm extremely biased on. They found that every year around the time of September, searches for iPhone slows down or iPhone getting slow or something of that nature would spike right around September. And when they also did a search for Samsung phones, they found that this was not the case. To be fair, Samsung releases 2 phones per year, one in around the March or April time period and then another around August or September. But still, as you can see from the graphic, it really doesn't show that much of a pattern. Like, it doesn't spike around any particular month, whereas the Apple graphic shows clearly that every year around September there is a spike in searches for iPhone slowing down. There are 2 possible explanations for this. Number 1, which is entirely possible because Apple keeps most of the control of iOS all for themselves, is that Apple is deliberately putting out updates to make their phones slower right around the time the new one comes out, because number 1, you have a slow device, and then number 2, look at the new thing that just came out! Oh my god! Or number 2, which is equally as possible, that as soon as a phone from whatever manufacturer you prefer gets released, one can look down at their current one and be like, gosh, this thing's really slow compared to fill in the blank. Either one could be the case. I personally think that the Google Trends study definitely has some validity. But what do you think? By the way, I thought about it and I'm going to post my Snapchat right now. Feel free to add if you message me directly. I may or may not reply just because I've got other stuff I gotta do too. Also, to those who ordered BeamtUp shirts, next Thursday is when we will be ordering them. So I've got all your emails, I've got your sizes. And by the way, stay beaming.